Get this dirty old man and his drug money out of my bank! Rebecca Sterling's voice cut through the marble-lined lobby like a blade. Her manicured hands swept across the premium counter, scattering $100 bills onto the pristine floor with theatrical disgust. Samuel Jefferson, 68, stood frozen in his patched flannel shirt. His weathered black hands, scarred from decades of farm work, trembled slightly as he watched $847,000 in cash, his life's earnings, get trampled beneath Sterling's designer heels. "Ma'am, that's my money from—" "I don't care where you stole it." Sterling's eyes blazed with contempt. "Security! Remove this vagrant before he contaminates our respectable establishment." Customers gasped. Phones emerged. A live stream counter ticked upward. 73 viewers, 156 viewers, 394 viewers. Sam's calloused fingers slowly reached for his worn wallet. Something metallic glinted inside, something that would shatter Sterling's world in exactly 11 minutes. The bank clock read 2:49 p.m. "Look at this disgusting mess you made." Rebecca Sterling's voice echoed through the marble lobby as she gestured theatrically at the scattered bills. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight bun, emphasizing the sharp angles of her contemptuous expression. Behind her, the bank's gold-plated logo gleamed like a crown. "Clean up your filthy drug money, old man. We're not your servants." Samuel Jefferson's arthritic knees protested as he slowly lowered himself to the cold marble. His weathered hands, permanently stained from decades of soil and sun, began collecting the crumpled hundreds one by one, the sound of his joints creaking mixed with the clicking of phone cameras. "That's right, crawl for it," Sterling sneered, her designer heel tapping impatiently. "Maybe this will teach you about proper banking etiquette." A young woman in the corner held her phone steady. The live stream tag read at Riverside Reality. Her viewer count climbed 847, 1,203, 1,891. Comments flooded the screen faster than she could read them. "This is heartbreaking to watch. Someone help this grandfather. She's making him crawl for his own money." Sterling's assistant manager, Patricia Williams, appeared at her side. A nervous woman in her 30s, she clutched a clipboard like armor. "Should I call the authorities, Miss Sterling?" "Absolutely. This elderly vagrant clearly doesn't understand he's in a respectable establishment." Sam's fingers closed around a $100 bill that had lodged under Sterling's shoe. As he reached for it, his worn leather wallet fell from his shirt pocket. For just a moment, something platinum caught the light. An American Express Centurion card, before he quickly scooped it up. "Excuse me, ma'am," Sam said quietly, his voice carrying the slow cadence of the rural South. "Might I have your employee identification number?" Sterling's laugh was sharp and cruel. "You want to file a complaint against me?" She leaned down, speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Listen, Grandpa, I don't know what backwoods farm you wandered away from, but this is First National Bank of Riverside. We don't handle transactions for people like you." The bank's digital clock shifted. 2:52 p.m. "People like me?" Sam continued collecting bills, his movements deliberate and dignified despite the humiliation. "Don't play dumb. Drug dealers, money launderers, criminals." Sterling's voice dripped with disgust. "You think we can't smell the marijuana residue on that cash, the cocaine traces?" An elderly white woman near the teller windows gasped audibly. "Someone should call the police. He might be dangerous." A young Latina mother pulled her twin daughters closer, shielding their eyes from the scene. "Ma'am, I've been farming for 50 years, Sam said, slowly rising to his feet with the canvas bag now half full of retrieved money. "Every dollar in this bag comes from honest work." 50 years? Sterling's eyebrows shot up mockingly. "Of what? Growing weed in your backyard?" The live stream viewer count hit 2,847. Riverside Reality's hands shook slightly as she held the phone steady. Williams leaned closer to Sterling. "Should I get security, Chief Thompson?" "Yes. And bring the drug testing kit from the safe." Sterling's smile was predatory. "Let's see what kind of residue is really on this old man's farming money." As Sam bent to retrieve the last few bills, a first-class Delta boarding pass slipped from his flannel shirt pocket. San Francisco to New York, departing 6 p.m. The ticket landed face up on the marble, but Sterling was too busy playing to her audience to notice. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sterling announced to the growing crowd of onlookers, "this is exactly why First National maintains the highest standards. We protect our respectable customers from exactly this type of situation." Security Chief Thompson emerged from a side office, a thick-set man with a graying mustache who looked uncomfortable with the spectacle unfolding before him. "Miss Sterling? You called for assistance?" "Yes. This confused elderly man has brought what appears to be drug money into our establishment. I need you to detain him while we contact federal authorities." Thompson glanced at Sam, who was carefully smoothing each crumpled bill before placing it in his bag. Something about the old man's quiet dignity made him hesitate. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step over here while we sort this out." Sam nodded slowly. "Of course, son. I understand you're just doing your job." The clock read 2:55 p.m., 5 minutes until everything changed. Sterling retrieved a small testing kit from behind the counter, waving it like evidence in a trial. "We'll test every single bill for illegal substances. Then we'll see what kind of farmer you really are." Sam's weathered hand instinctively moved to the vintage Patek Philippe hidden beneath his flannel cuff. The scratched watch face showed the same time as the bank's digital display. "Young lady," Sam said quietly, "how long have you worked in customer service?" Sterling's laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. "Long enough to spot trouble when it walks through my door wearing rags and carrying dirty money." The live stream hit 3,421 viewers. The comments section had exploded. "This breaks my heart. Somebody help this grandfather. #respect your elders. #banking while black." Sam folded his hands over his walking cane, observing the scene with the patience of someone who had weathered decades of discrimination. His eyes moved slowly from Sterling to Williams to Thompson, memorizing faces, badge numbers, details. "Well then," he said softly, "I suppose we should handle this properly." But Sterling wasn't finished. She held up a crumpled $100 bill like a piece of evidence. "This money reeks of criminal activity. Look at it, wrinkled, dirty, probably passed through dozens of illegal transactions." She turned to the crowd. "This is what drug money looks like, people. Remember this moment?" The bank's marble floor, where Sam's money had been scattered just minutes before, now reflected the harsh fluorescent lights like a stage. And on that stage, Rebecca Sterling had just made the biggest mistake of her career. The clock ticked to 2:56 p.m., 4 minutes until Samuel Jefferson revealed who he really was. "Spread those bills on the counter, every single one." Rebecca Sterling's command cut through the tension as she snapped on latex gloves with theatrical precision. The drug testing kit sat open beside her like a detective's evidence case, its chemical vials gleaming under the harsh fluorescent lights. "This is the same dirty money you scattered all over our clean floor," she announced loudly enough for the growing crowd to hear. "Now we'll see what illegal substances you've been handling, old man." Sam methodically arranged the bills on the marble counter, each movement deliberate and respectful. His weathered fingers smoothed every wrinkle with the same care he'd once used to tend seedlings. The contrast was stark, Sterling's aggressive theatrics versus his quiet dignity. "Those bills were clean until they touched your floor, ma'am," Sam said, his voice carrying the patient wisdom of decades. Sterling's eyes flashed with rage. "Are you suggesting this bank is dirty?" "No, ma'am, just the treatment." The words hit like a slap. Several customers shifted uncomfortably. An elderly white woman near the teller windows whispered to her husband, "Maybe we should leave." Riverside Reality's live stream had exploded to 6,847 viewers. Her phone battery indicator showed 23% remaining, but she kept filming. The comments were a waterfall of outrage moving faster than humanly readable. "She made a 68-year-old crawl. This is elder abuse on camera. #money on the floor trending everywhere. #justice for grandpa. Someone get this man a lawyer." Patricia Williams hovered nervously beside Sterling, clipboard clutched to her chest like armor. Her hands visibly shook as she watched the scene unfold. "Miss Sterling, should I call the FBI tip line? This is getting out of hand." "Absolutely." Sterling's smile was predatory, her confidence returning. "Put it on speaker. Let everyone hear what happens to criminals who try to launder money through First National." The phone's dial tone echoed through the marble lobby like a funeral bell. Every customer leaned forward, phones raised, recording history. Security Chief Thompson shifted uncomfortably near the entrance, his weathered face troubled. In 30 years of bank security, he'd developed instincts about people. Criminals usually showed tells: fear, anger, desperation, shifty eyes. This old man showed none of those things. If anything, he seemed patient, like someone waiting for an appointment. Federal Bureau of Investigation, Financial Crimes Division. Williams's voice cracked as she spoke into the phone. We have a suspicious elderly black male attempting to deposit what appears to be drug money. Large amounts of cash, $800,000. No proper documentation, and he smells like marijuana. Sam's eyebrows raised slightly at the last fabrication. His lips curved in what might have been amusement, but he said nothing. The bank's digital clock flashed. 2:57 p.m. 3 minutes until everything changed. Has the subject shown any signs of aggression or flight risk? Sterling grabbed the phone from Williams. This is Rebecca Sterling, branch manager. The subject is elderly but could be dangerous. We need immediate assistance. Ma'am, we'll dispatch a unit, but it may take 20 to 30 minutes. That's unacceptable! Sterling's professional veneer was cracking. We have a lobby full of customers being threatened by this criminal. Sam looked up from arranging his bills. Ma'am, I haven't threatened anyone. I simply asked to make a deposit. Sir, we're going to need you to empty your pockets completely, Thompson said reluctantly. Standard security procedure. Sam nodded with the patience of a grandfather humoring an overeager grandchild. From his flannel shirt pockets, he produced items one by one. A flip phone so old it looked like a museum piece, held together with electrical tape. His worn leather wallet, cracked from decades of use. A small container of antacid pills, reading glasses with one lens slightly cracked. Is that everything? Sterling demanded, examining each item like evidence in a murder trial. That's everything, ma'am. What about that bag? The one you brought the money in? Sam handed over the old canvas bag without protest. Thompson examined it thoroughly. Nothing but fabric dust and the lingering scent of honest work. The bag was so old the original logo had faded beyond recognition. But as Thompson returned the bag, Sam's wallet fell open accidentally. This time, several customers caught a clear glimpse of what was inside. A young businessman in a $3,000 suit did a visible double-take. His fingers flew over his phone screen, Googling something frantically. A middle-aged woman in pearls squinted at Sam's wallet, then pulled out her own phone. Her eyes widened as she scrolled through search results. Miss Sterling, the businessman called out hesitantly. Ma'am, I really think you should stop and— Not now! Sterling snapped, her voice echoing off the marble walls. Can't you see we're conducting a criminal investigation? Don't interfere with official bank business. The live stream viewers had climbed to 14,200. Riverside Reality's phone was getting dangerously hot, but she didn't dare stop recording. Multiple news outlets had started monitoring the stream, and the story was spreading across social media like wildfire. Channel 7's field producer at NewsAlert_7 joined the chat. News van en route. Keep filming. This is going viral. Local blogger at City Watchdog retweeted the stream. Live. Elderly farmer humiliated at First National Bank. This is heartbreaking. Test the money now, Sterling commanded, pulling out a chemical swab with the flourish of a prosecutor presenting evidence. Let's see what substances this old criminal has been dealing with. She ran the swab across a $100 bill aggressively, pressing hard enough to tear the paper slightly. The test strip remained unchanged, completely negative for any illegal substances. Sterling's face flushed red. She grabbed another bill, tested it more forcefully. Still negative. A third bill. Nothing. The equipment must be faulty, she muttered, her confidence wavering for the first time. These tests are supposed to be foolproof. Young lady, Sam said softly, might I respectfully suggest you test your own hands? You've been handling the same money I have. The suggestion hung in the air like a challenge. Several customers chuckled nervously. The live stream comments exploded with approval. Get her! Test the manager! She touched it too! Sterling's face went from red to purple. How dare you suggest that a bank manager would— Ma'am, the test results speak for themselves, Thompson interrupted diplomatically, clearly uncomfortable with the escalating situation. The money appears to be completely clean. Then test him! Sterling's composure was cracking like ice in spring. Test his hands, his clothes, his bag, everything. He's obviously using some kind of masking agent. Sam extended his weathered palms without protest, calluses and old scars visible under the harsh lights. Go ahead, son. Test whatever you need to test. Thompson ran the chemical test across Sam's hands with obvious reluctance. Negative. His flannel shirt sleeves, negative. Even the old canvas bag he'd carried, completely, utterly clean. The clock read 2:58 p.m., 2 minutes until Rebecca Sterling's world collapsed. This is absolutely ridiculous. Sterling's voice pitched higher, losing all pretense of professional authority. Look at him! Look at how much cash he's carrying. Nobody legitimate walks around with $800,000 in a canvas bag. The young businessman stepped forward again, more urgently this time. Miss Sterling, please, I really think you need to know— What? Sterling whirled around, her perfectly styled hair coming loose from its bun. What could possibly be more important than protecting our customers from this obvious criminal? That man. I think he might be Samuel Jefferson. The name meant nothing to Sterling, but several older customers gasped audibly. Samuel Jefferson, the farmer, the businessman continued nervously. The agricultural— I don't care if he's the king of agriculture, Sterling screamed, completely losing control. He's still a criminal. Sam's ancient flip phone rang with a tone that sounded like it belonged in a museum. The old-fashioned bell cut through the tension like a knife through silk. Every eye in the bank turned to the antiquated device. Sam looked at the caller ID display, and for the first time since entering the bank, he smiled. It was barely perceptible, but it was there. Excuse me, folks, I need to take this call. Sterling laughed harshly, hysteria creeping into her voice. Oh, now he gets a phone call? What is this, some kind of coordinated criminal operation? Who's calling him? His drug supplier? Sam answered the phone with unhurried dignity. When he spoke, his voice carried differently. Not the apologetic tone of a man being humiliated, but the measured cadence of someone in complete, absolute control. Sarah, this is Mr. Samuel. Something in his tone made the entire lobby go quiet. I'm at the Riverside branch. Sterling's laughter died in her throat. Yes, that particular branch. The live stream viewer count hit 18,600. The comments stopped scrolling. Even the internet seemed to be holding its breath. It's time. Sam's next words would change everything. The clock ticked to 2:59 p.m. 60 seconds until justice arrived. Activate Protocol 7. Full forensic audit of this location effective immediately. Samuel Jefferson's voice carried across the marble lobby with quiet authority that made every conversation stop. The ancient flip phone looked almost comical in his weathered hands, but his tone commanded absolute attention. Rebecca Sterling's smug expression faltered. The words forensic audit hit her like cold water. What did you just say? She whispered. Sam continued speaking into the phone, his voice now carrying the unmistakable cadence of command. Sarah, I need a complete review of employee conduct protocols. We have a situation requiring immediate corporate intervention. Who is Sarah? Sterling demanded, her voice cracking. Who are you calling? The young businessman who had tried to warn her earlier stepped forward, his face pale. Miss Sterling, that's Samuel Jefferson, the Samuel Jefferson. I don't know what that means, Sterling shrieked. Jefferson Agricultural Holdings, the businessman said quietly. He's one of the largest agricultural suppliers in America. Sam ended his first call and immediately dialed another number. This time he looked directly at Sterling as he spoke. Margaret, this is Samuel. I'm experiencing a situation at your Riverside location that requires your personal attention. Sterling's eyes widened. Margaret, as in Margaret Torres, CEO of First National Bank. Yes, that's correct. The branch manager threw my money on the floor and forced me to crawl to collect it. The live stream exploded. Riverside Reality's viewer count hit 28,000. Comments flooded faster than the app could display them. Oh my God, it's Samuel Jefferson, the agriculture king. She's so fired. Sam gestured calmly toward his canvas bag on the counter. Miss Sterling, those bills you threw on your floor and made me crawl to collect, they represent exactly 47 minutes of Jefferson Agricultural's revenue. Sterling stared at him, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. My company generates $847,000 every 3/4 of an hour. Sam's voice remained conversational, almost gentle. So when you threw my money on the floor, you were scattering what my farms earn faster than you make in a year. Patricia Williams frantically typed on her phone, Googling Jefferson Agricultural. Her face went white as the search results loaded. $2.3 billion annual revenue, she read aloud in a whisper. Walmart's largest organic supplier, Whole Foods' exclusive partner. That can't be right, Sterling stammered. He's just... Look at him. He's wearing rags. Sam adjusted his flannel shirt with quiet dignity. I've been wearing clothes like these for 50 years, ma'am. They've served me well through building a company from 2 acres to 47,000 acres across 12 states. The elderly woman near the teller windows gasped. 47,000 acres? Yes, ma'am. We feed approximately 50,000 families daily through our organic produce distribution. Security Chief Thompson stepped backward, his face ashen. In 30 years of security work, he'd never seen anything like this reversal. Sterling grabbed Williams's phone, staring at the search results. Photos of Sam at agricultural conferences, shaking hands with governors, receiving awards, headlines about America's organic pioneer and the quiet revolutionary of sustainable farming. This is impossible, she whispered. Sam retrieved a second phone from his shirt pocket, this one newer, sleeker. Margaret, I'm calling from my direct line now. The board meeting starts in 90 seconds. Sterling's legs nearly gave out. The board meeting. Samuel Jefferson was calling the CEO during a board meeting. I trust you'll want to discuss this development with your executives immediately. Riverside Reality's phone was shaking so badly she could barely hold it steady. The live stream had become the most watched video on the platform, with news outlets across the country picking up the feed. A customer near the back called out, "Are you the Samuel Jefferson from Time magazine?" Time featured a story about our sustainable farming initiatives in 1998. Yes, sir. You revolutionized organic farming in America, another voice said. My business school used your case study. Sterling looked around the lobby wildly. The same customers who had been watching her humiliate an old man were now looking at her with horror and disgust. But the money. Sterling's professional vocabulary had completely abandoned her. Sam carefully folded his ancient phone and put it away. Then he looked at Sterling with the same patience he'd shown throughout the entire ordeal. Miss Sterling, Jefferson Agricultural represents 28% of First National's commercial portfolio. Our quarterly deposits average $89 million. We've banked exclusively with First National for 15 years. Williams dropped her clipboard. The sound of it hitting the marble echoed like a gunshot. But more importantly, Sam continued, we're also the majority shareholder in Regional Banking Consortium, which owns 15% of First National stock. The words hit Sterling like physical blows. She owned stock in her own bank. He was, in a very real sense, one of her bosses. The board meeting I mentioned? I'm not just calling about it. Sam checked his scratched Patek Philippe watch. I'm supposed to be in it, as a member of the First National Advisory Board. Sterling's knees buckled. Thompson caught her arm before she fell. The bank's digital clock read exactly 3 p.m. Sam's final revelation was still coming. And Miss Sterling, the Sarah I called first, that's Sarah Carter, our corporate legal counsel. She's been documenting this entire conversation for the past 3 minutes. He gestured toward a small device that had been sitting unnoticed on the counter. A recording unit, its red light blinking steadily. Every word, every action, every moment of this interaction has been preserved for legal review. The livestream viewer count hit 34,000. The story had officially gone viral, spreading across every social media platform simultaneously. Sterling stared at the man she'd humiliated, the man whose money she'd thrown on the floor, the man she'd forced to crawl, the man who now held her career, and possibly her life, in his weathered, dignified hands. Now then, Sam said quietly, shall we discuss how First National plans to handle this situation? The sound of helicopter rotors cut through the afternoon air like approaching thunder. Through the bank's floor-to-ceiling windows, customers watched a sleek corporate chopper circle the parking lot before landing with military precision. That would be Margaret, Sam said calmly, adjusting his flannel shirt as if preparing for a casual lunch meeting. Rebecca Sterling stood frozen beside the marble counter, her face cycling through shades of white that interior designers didn't have names for. The woman who had thrown an old farmer's money on the floor was about to meet the CEO of First National Bank, a CEO responding to that farmer's personal phone call. The helicopter's engines wound down as a team of executives in dark suits emerged, moving with the urgent precision of a crisis response unit. Leading them was Margaret Torres, 58, an imposing African-American woman whose reputation for swift justice preceded her like a thunderstorm. "Mr. Jefferson," Torres said as she strode through the bank's entrance, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to commanding boardrooms. "I came as soon as I received your call. This is absolutely unconscionable." Sam rose slowly from the chair where he'd been patiently waiting, his arthritis evident in every movement. "Margaret, I appreciate your prompt response, though I do regret interrupting the board meeting. The board meeting is suspended indefinitely." Torres's eyes swept the lobby, taking in the crowd of customers still filming with their phones. "This situation takes precedence over everything else." Riverside Reality's live stream had exploded to 47,000 viewers. News vans from 3 local stations were pulling into the parking lot, their satellite dishes extending like mechanical flowers reaching toward the sky. Torres turned to Sterling with the cold focus of a prosecuting attorney. "Miss Sterling, I've been briefed on the situation. Before we proceed, I need to understand exactly what happened here." Sterling's voice came out as a croak. We had a suspicious transaction. Large amounts of cash, no documentation." "You had one of our most valued clients making a routine deposit," Torres corrected, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "A client who represents 28% of our commercial portfolio." Sam stepped forward, leaning slightly on his walking cane. "Margaret, before we discuss business relationships, let's talk about basic human dignity." He gestured toward the marble floor where his money had been scattered. "When Miss Sterling threw my money on this floor, she wasn't just disrespecting me. She was disrespecting every farmer who works from sunrise to sunset for an honest living." Torres pulled out her phone, scrolling through the live footage that had been saved and shared across social media. Her expression grew darker with each passing second. "I'm watching you force a 68-year-old man to crawl on his hands and knees to collect his own money," she said to Sterling. "Money that represents the feeding of 50,000 American families daily." Patricia Williams had retreated to a corner, clutching her clipboard like a life preserver. Security Chief Thompson stood at attention, clearly hoping to become invisible. Sam reached into his worn canvas bag and pulled out a folded document, a legal brief he'd been preparing in his mind throughout the ordeal. "Margaret, I've had time to consider the legal implications while sitting here. Under California's Unruh Civil Rights Act, Section 52, age-based discrimination in public accommodation carries penalties up to $4,000 per violation." Torres nodded grimly. "That's correct. Elder abuse statutes add additional penalties up to $10,000 for degrading treatment of senior citizens in commercial settings." Sterling's legs finally gave out completely. Thompson caught her arm, guiding her to a chair. "But more concerning," Sam continued, "is the violation of Federal Fair Housing Act extensions to commercial banking and the FDIC Community Reinvestment Act compliance requirements that First National signed in 2023. Torres's legal team exchanged glances. They were witnessing a masterclass in corporate accountability delivered by a man in a patched flannel shirt. "The degrading treatment of customer funds, specifically throwing legal tender on the ground, violates both state banking regulations and our own institutional dignity standards." Sam paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle over the marble lobby like dust after an explosion. "However, Margaret, I'm not here seeking punitive damages. I'm here proposing systematic reform." He pulled out his ancient flip phone again, but this time accessed a notes app that seemed anachronistically modern on the device. "I've prepared a 7-point reform proposal." Torres leaned forward. "I'm listening." "First, immediate dignity in banking training for all 847 First National employees nationwide, focusing specifically on respectful treatment of customers regardless of appearance, age, or perceived economic status. Sterling looked up from her chair, her face a mask of despair. 847 employees. He knew the exact number. Second, implementation of a respect for customer funds protocol. No customer's legal tender may be mishandled, thrown, or treated with anything less than professional dignity. Sam's voice grew stronger, carrying the authority of someone who had built an empire through careful planning and systematic execution. Third, launch of a banking equity app for real-time discrimination reporting with anonymous customer feedback and mandatory response protocols. Fourth, establishment of a $15 million fund for minority and senior entrepreneur development, providing low-interest loans and business mentorship. Torres was taking notes rapidly. Her legal team was recording every word. Fifth, monthly dignity audits with public transparency reports, measuring customer satisfaction across demographic lines and publishing results quarterly. Sixth, partnership with historically black colleges and universities for banking internship programs, ensuring diverse representation in future leadership. Sam paused, looking directly at Sterling. And seventh, immediate personnel review of any employee who demonstrates discriminatory behavior with mandatory sensitivity training and, where appropriate, termination. The live stream comments were moving too fast to read, but the overall sentiment was clear. Justice was being served with surgical precision. Torres nodded slowly. Mr. Jefferson, these are comprehensive and reasonable reforms. First National accepts all 7 points. She turned to Sterling, her voice carrying the finality of a judge delivering a sentence. Miss Sterling, effective immediately, you are terminated from First National Bank. Your pension is under review pending legal investigation. Security will escort you from the premises. Sterling opened her mouth to protest, but no sound came out. Miss Williams, you are suspended without pay pending mandatory sensitivity training and psychological evaluation. Your future with this institution depends entirely on your ability to demonstrate fundamental respect for human dignity. Williams nodded frantically, tears streaming down her face. Mr. Thompson, you are demoted to entry-level security and required to complete elder care certification within 30 days. Thompson accepted the demotion with visible relief. At least he still had a job. Sam watched the proceedings with the same patience he'd shown throughout the entire ordeal. When Torres finished delivering consequences, he spoke quietly. Margaret, I want to be clear about something. This isn't about revenge. At 68 years old, I've seen enough discrimination to fill several lifetimes. But I've also learned that real change comes through education, not punishment. He stood slowly, gathering his money from the counter with the same dignity he'd shown while collecting it from the floor. I'll continue banking with First National, but I'll also be watching closely to ensure these reforms are implemented fully and permanently. Torres extended her hand, which Sam shook with the firm grip of a man who had spent decades closing deals built on trust and mutual respect. Thank you for your patience today, Mr. Jefferson, and I apologize on behalf of every employee at First National. Sam nodded, then looked at the crowd of customers still filming the historic moment. Change doesn't always require revolution, friends. Sometimes it just requires one person refusing to accept disrespect and an institution willing to choose dignity over defending the indefensible. The live stream peaked at 52,000 viewers as Samuel Jefferson walked toward the exit, his canvas bag slung over his shoulder, his dignity intact, and his money finally deposited with the respect it and he had always deserved. 3 weeks later, the transformation was undeniable. The same marble floor where Samuel Jefferson's money had been scattered now gleamed with a new addition, a golden plaque embedded directly into the stone, reading, "Every customer's dignity matters. Every dollar represents dreams." Rebecca Sterling's former office had been converted into the Customer Dignity Training Center, where a continuous stream of employees learned about respectful banking practices. Her mahogany desk had been replaced with a semicircle of chairs where bank staff watched the original live stream footage and discussed its implications. Her replacement, Maria Rodriguez, was a 15-year banking veteran with a master's degree in community outreach and specialized training in elder care. Rodriguez's first act as branch manager was to personally call every customer who had witnessed the incident, apologizing on behalf of First National and inviting them to visit the reformed branch. The scattered bills memorial policy had become the centerpiece of First National's transformation. Every new employee watched the live stream footage, now viewed over 2.3 million times across all platforms, as part of mandatory orientation training. The training module's central question haunted every session. What does it mean when customer money touches the ground? The required answer, memorized by every employee. It means we've forgotten that every dollar represents someone's labor, dreams, and dignity. It means we've failed as guardians of trust. But the policy went deeper than symbolism. New protocols required that any dropped money be retrieved immediately by bank staff, never by customers. Customer funds were handled with the same reverence typically reserved for historic artifacts or religious relics. The physical changes throughout the branch were immediately visible. Digital displays now rotate between standard banking information and dignity affirmations. Your business honors us. Every customer's story matters. Respect has no price tag. A new customer feedback station occupied the space where Sterling once stood triumphantly over Sam's scattered bills. Touchscreens allowed immediate reporting of any dignity violations, with responses guaranteed within 4 hours. The Banking Respect app had exceeded all expectations, downloaded 4.2 million times nationwide. Its real-time reporting system had identified and corrected discriminatory practices at over 847 bank locations across America, a number Sam had specifically requested to match his original deposit amount. Sam Jefferson visited the branch on a Tuesday morning exactly 1 month after the incident. He carried the same canvas bag, wore the same patched flannel shirt, and walked with the same slight limp from his old tractor accident. But he also carried something new, a leather portfolio containing documentation of the nationwide changes his stand had inspired. But this time, the reception was dramatically different. "Good morning, Mr. Jefferson," Maria Rodriguez greeted him personally, rising from behind the premium service counter with genuine warmth. "How can we assist you today? It's truly an honor to serve you. I'd like to make a deposit, please." Sam's voice carried the same quiet dignity, but now it was met with immediate, genuine respect from every employee within earshot. "Of course, sir. Would you prefer our new VIP banking suite? We've redesigned it specifically with accessibility and comfort in mind." "The main counter is just fine, thank you. I believe in transparency." As Sam approached the marble counter, he paused at the golden plaque. Several other customers noticed and gathered respectfully, recognizing the man whose story had sparked a nationwide conversation about dignity in banking. A young mother pointed him out to her teenage daughter, whispering, "That's the man who changed everything." At Riverside, reality was there too, having become an unofficial documentarian of the bank's transformation. Her follow-up videos showing the changes at First National had garnered millions of views and inspired similar reforms at banks across the country. She now worked part-time as a customer advocacy consultant for First National, a position created specifically to ensure continued accountability. "Same amount as last time?" Rodriguez asked professionally, but with the warmth that had become the new standard for customer interaction. $847,000. Sam confirmed, opening his canvas bag. This time, the bills were crisp and new, fresh from legitimate agricultural sales, but they carried the weight of history. Rodriguez personally counted each bill with reverence, treating the currency like the precious representation of honest work that it truly was. No testing kits, no accusations, no drama, just respectful, professional service delivered with the dignity every customer deserved. Her movements were deliberate and respectful, each bill handled as if it carried the dreams and aspirations of the person who had earned it. Because Sam had taught them, it did. "Mr. Jefferson," she said as she processed the deposit, "I wanted you to know that our customer satisfaction scores have improved 410% since implementing your reforms. We've received thank you letters from customers as far away as Maine and Oregon." Sam nodded approvingly, pleased but unsurprised. "And complaints?" "Zero discrimination complaints filed since the new protocols began. Zero. The Banking Equity app shows we're now rated as the most respectful financial institution in the state." The app had become a phenomenon, spreading far beyond First National to banks across America. The simple principle, treat every customer's money with the same respect you'd want for your own, had resonated with millions of people who had experienced financial discrimination in various forms. "What about the scholarship fund?" Sam asked, genuinely interested in the program's impact. The Jefferson Agricultural Scholarship Program has awarded full grants to 127 minority students pursuing agricultural studies at universities nationwide. We've also partnered with 12 historically black colleges and universities for our expanded internship program. 3 of our current management trainees are scholarship recipients. Rodriguez pulled out a tablet showing photos of scholarship recipients at graduation ceremonies, young faces beaming with pride and possibility. Your story inspired them to pursue careers they never thought possible. Patricia Williams approached hesitantly from across the lobby, her steps measured and respectful. She had completed her mandatory sensitivity training and psychological evaluation, emerging with a dramatically changed perspective and a deep, genuine sense of remorse that had transformed her entire worldview. "Mr. Jefferson," she said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of genuine transformation, "I wanted to thank you for giving me a second chance." Sam looked at her with the same patience and grace he'd shown during her worst moment, when she had joined Sterling in humiliating him. "The training program, it helped me understand things about myself that I never wanted to face. I had biases I didn't even know existed. I'm a better person now because of what you chose to do with your pain." "What we chose to do," Sam corrected gently. "Change requires everyone to participate. Your willingness to grow shows real character, Patricia." Williams had indeed become one of the program's most effective trainers, using her own experience and transformation to help other employees recognize and overcome their unconscious biases. Her before and after story had become a central part of the training curriculum. "I speak to new employees every week about dignity, respect, and the cost of assumptions," Williams continued. "I tell them about the man I helped humiliate and the grace he showed me when he could have destroyed my career forever." The live stream of Sam's return visit was being watched by 23,000 people in real time. The comments section was filled with updates from viewers whose own banks had implemented similar dignity protocols. "My bank in Phoenix now has a dignity pledge in 5 languages. Dallas First National started elder-friendly banking hours with complimentary coffee. Sacramento Credit Union hired a customer dignity officer who reports directly to the CEO. Even my small-town bank in Iowa has the dignity plaque now." But the most significant change was legislative. California had passed the Samuel Jefferson Banking Equity Act, requiring dignity training for all bank employees and establishing severe penalties for customer discrimination. 23 other states were considering similar legislation, with Alabama and Mississippi leading surprisingly progressive adoption efforts. The banking industry itself had been transformed. The American Banking Association had created the annual Jefferson Award for Banking Dignity, recognizing institutions that demonstrated exceptional customer respect. First National had been the inaugural recipient. "The ripple effect has been remarkable," Sam told Rodriguez as his deposit was finalized. "But the real measure isn't in policies or training programs, it's in moments like this one." He gestured around the lobby, where customers of all ages and backgrounds were being served with equal respect and professionalism. An elderly veteran in a wheelchair received the same attention as a young entrepreneur in an expensive suit. A teenage girl opening her first account was treated with the same dignity as a wealthy retiree making a large withdrawal. When every person who walks through these doors, regardless of their appearance, age, race, or the amount of money they're depositing, is treated with fundamental human dignity. Rodriguez smiled, her eyes bright with genuine pride in the transformation. "That's exactly what we've achieved, sir, and we maintain it every single day." As Sam prepared to leave, he paused at the memorial plaque one final time. Several customers gathered around him, drawn by the quiet authority and wisdom he carried. He spoke to the small crowd with the accumulated knowledge of someone who had spent 7 decades learning about resilience, justice, and the power of patient determination. Friends, dignity isn't something you can buy or sell. It can't be earned through wealth or lost through poverty. It exists in how we treat each other in moments when we think nobody's watching. He tapped the golden plaque gently with his walking cane, the sound ringing clearly in the marble lobby. This memorial isn't about my money that hit this floor. It's about making sure no one else ever has to watch their dreams get scattered and their dignity get trampled by prejudice and assumptions. Riverside Reality's final frame showed Sam walking slowly toward the exit, his canvas bag lighter now, his posture straight despite his age and arthritis. The same man who had entered the bank a month ago seeking basic respect was now leaving as the catalyst for nationwide banking reform and social change. The marble floor gleamed under the afternoon sunlight streaming through the windows, and the golden plaque caught the light like a beacon, a permanent reminder that every customer's dignity matters and every dollar represents dreams that deserve respect. The transformation was complete, but the legacy was just beginning. Outside, Sam climbed into his old pickup truck, the same vehicle he'd driven to the bank that fateful day. But now, painted on the tailgate in simple, elegant letters, was his new mission statement. Jefferson Agricultural Holdings, growing food, growing justice, growing dignity for all. The revolution had been quiet, respectful, and utterly transformative, just like the man who started it. 1 year later, Samuel Jefferson's legacy had grown far beyond a single bank branch in Riverside, California. The framed $100 bill that had once touched the marble floor now hung in Jefferson Agricultural Holdings headquarters, its glass case bearing a simple inscription: "This bill touched the ground so that dignity could rise." At my age, I've learned that the most powerful changes often begin with the smallest acts of resistance, Sam told 60 Minutes during their special segment. I didn't set out to change banking in America. I just refused to let my dignity stay scattered on that floor. The statistics were staggering. The banking dignity movement had spread to 2,847 financial institutions nationwide. Customer satisfaction across the industry had improved by 156%. Discrimination complaints had dropped by 73%. Rebecca Sterling had vanished from public view after her termination, reportedly working at a small insurance agency in Montana. Her fall from branch manager to cautionary tale had been swift and complete. Patricia Williams, conversely, had become one of banking's most sought-after diversity trainers. "Samuel Jefferson saved my soul," she told the audience. "His grace gave me the chance to become someone better." At Riverside Reality, whose real name was Jasmine Carter, had parlayed her documentation into Emmy-nominated documentary Money on Marble: The Banking Revolution, sparking congressional hearings on financial discrimination. The hearings resulted in federal legislation, the National Banking Dignity Act, requiring annual dignity audits for all federally insured institutions. Senator Elizabeth Warren often referenced Sam's story. When an elderly farmer's dignity was scattered, it revealed cracks in our entire financial system. Young bankers now learned about the Jefferson Standard, that every customer deserved respect regardless of appearance. Business schools taught dignity-centered customer service as a core curriculum. The Riverside branch had become an unlikely pilgrimage site. The memorial plaque drew daily visitors, and the Customer Dignity Training Center offered public workshops every Saturday. Sam, now 69, continued farming but spent evenings writing his memoir, Seeds of Dignity, Growing Change One Person at a Time. "I've spent 50 years growing vegetables," he told his editor. "Turns out I was also growing patience, wisdom, and strength to stand up when it mattered most." On the anniversary, Sam returned to speak at the memorial ceremony. Standing before the golden plaque, he addressed executives, activists, and curious onlookers. "Friends, change doesn't always require shouting. Sometimes it requires strategic silence, followed by systematic action." He paused, scanning faces of people honoring a moment that changed everything. That money on the floor wasn't just scattered currency. It was a test of character, institutional values, and human decency. The money got picked up within minutes. The question was whether the lessons would be picked up too. The crowd hung on every word. Today I can say with certainty, the lessons were picked up. They were carried to banks nationwide, to boardrooms and training centers, to legislation and corporate policies. They were planted in the hearts of young leaders. Sam looked down at the golden plaque. Dignity, like farming, requires patience, consistent care, and faith that good seeds eventually yield good harvest. Today we're seeing that harvest ripen across America. Over 100,000 people live-streamed the anniversary ceremony. Comments shared transformation stories. My company started dignity training after your story. I teach my children about standing up with grace. Change from banking to social work because of your example. Sam offered his final message. Have you witnessed discrimination in banking, business, or daily life? Have you seen assumptions made about people based on appearance or background? Your experience matters. Your voice drives change. Share your story below. Every person's dignity has value. Every voice contributes to justice. Every small act of resistance can grow into systematic transformation. Subscribe to Black Tales Stories for more accounts of quiet courage and transformative resilience. Together, we document dignity, celebrate character, and build bridges across communities. Remember, the next time someone tries to scatter your worth, you might be the person with power to sweep away their prejudice. When you do it with grace that makes lasting change possible. The ceremony ended as sunset cast shadows across the parking lot where a CEO's helicopter had once landed in crisis response to one farmer's phone call. Sam climbed into his pickup truck, the same vehicle that carried him to his moment of testing. Now it carried him home as a man who proved that dignity, once defended, becomes a force reshaping entire industries. His tailgate mission statement caught the last sunlight. Jefferson Agricultural Holdings, growing food, growing justice, growing dignity for all. Share this story if you believe every person deserves dignity. Every voice creates change, and every scattered dream can be planted somewhere better. The money that hit the floor that day rose again. So did the man who earned it. And so can systematic change, one courageous stand at a time.